So I've known about you guys for a long time, and but mostly as a curator on Spotify. We'll get into like kind of everything that you're doing. But I remember seeing you on SubmitHub, and I did look it up today to see how many times you declined me, and it was only twice, so that's not bad. Not bad. That's okay.
That's a very good number.
That's a very good number. I don't take any offense. But I remember, like, you know, I still occasionally use SubmitHub when the song is right, and there's a couple of you know, people like you that I want to get the song in front of. And I want to know what before we dive into Stereofox, I want to know what your perspective is of SubmitHub from the view of a curator. And perhaps you're using it as a label as well. But I'm just kind of curious from your perspective of it, because I think it is a good tool. I know it's problematic in certain ways, but I'm just kind of curious.
Absolutely, yeah. It's kind of interesting because I definitely can speak from the two sides of the fence, so to say. But obviously, we are a curator first. So from the point of view of curator, honestly, and this has been a huge discussion about people are using SubmitHub just because they want to make a quick and easy buck.
Right.
The reality is that, first of all, it's not quick and it's not easy. Most curators, it's mostly a hobby. Yeah, we started using this just because, like 5 years ago, when we started using SubmitHub, I couldn't keep up with my day job and basically answering, I'm not joking, at least 100 emails a day. It's just humanly impossible.
Wow.
And I think, I don't speak for the majority of the curators, but for me, it was just an easy tool to organize my work first and foremost.
Yeah.
And then, of course, in the beginning was actually one of the first revenue streams we had.
Wow.
And that honestly, SubmitHub was the essence of being able to be here today and say Stereofox is actually a full company, registered with full-time employees, and it's standing on its own feet. But that initial kick, that 2-3 hours a week that you can get very, very little financial help in the beginning, was super, super useful.
Yeah.
And also, I do discover a lot of good music. I'm perfectly aware that we decline. Everybody declines. Our approval rate is 5%. So you can imagine
that's
95 tracks out of 100 we will have to decline.
Yeah.
Jason and the team are doing a good job trying to make this place better for both curators and people who use it to submusic. I have also been, let's say, not always happy when I submit something and get something in return which I'm not very happy with. So I'm aware that there are situations where people wouldn't be very happy about it. But at the end of the day, you are paying for somebody's time.
Yeah.
And I really think it's my main advice to everybody who is using it to send music is you can either throw a lot of money and then don't be pissed off if you get rejected, or you spend some time and carefully research who you're going to send to, and then of course you're going to get better results. It's either or.
Yes.
But if you want to go on SubmitHub and click 50 curators and send them the tracks, you shouldn't be upset that maybe 46 will decline you.
Yeah.
Because there is some background work behind it.
I totally agree, especially, if you're not doing your research, that's on you. And I think what I do like about it, from your perspective, and the fact that you're getting 100 submissions a day before you were using SubmitHub, and a lot of those submissions, it's when you attach this monetary number to it, first of all, it creates people to just pause for a second, make sure I'm submitting to someone relevant, because I imagine in those 100 emails, half of them weren't relevant to the playlists that you had. They were genres that you didn't serve.
70% to 80.
Wow.
Actually.
Wow. That weren't even
there
relevant.
Was and you end up in this I guess a big topic, but you end up in some publicist lists for whatever reason without agreeing on being on that list. And then they send you random stuff like EDM, death metal, like stuff like that. It's not about music, but it's not what we feature. So I actually listen to metal music in my personal life, but it's just not what we feature. So I can like a track, but it's just not for us. And if you send me an email, you're wasting your time and you're wasting my time, because I have to open it, read, click, listen, reply to you. And when you have a day job, which I have, especially 5 years ago.
Yeah.
So 9 to 5, I'm on my day job, and then I do this out of love for music. It's not very nice just to listen to random tracks. I'd rather go on SoundCloud and find whatever I like.
Well, and I also, the other issue I don't have with the monetary aspect of it is that blogs never got paid before, other than maybe ads, which the banner ads, which weren't really a great thing. And I feel like it took the amount of blogs that, and I'm talking small blogs, that would take my album and write a 2-page review. I would get money because it would generate sales. The label would get money. Everybody's getting paid except for the blogger. So I have no problem, even if you are, so to speak, getting rich. But like, to me, having it be a revenue source, I think it makes sense.
Yeah. We're still there 5 years. And as I said, we also use it as a label. And I think even though we came with this huge experience of what's happening behind the scene as a curator, when I started submitting music as a label, I also made those mistakes. In the first few campaigns, I was like, okay, this is weird. Is that how these people feel every time they put this? And then after, I had to sit down and be like, hey, I go over the list. I was lucky enough because I've been doing this for 10 years, so I know a lot of the names, but I actually had to reopen their blogs and maybe listen to 5 tracks. And then the good thing of SubmitHub is that you can write notes. So now, 2 years later, 3 years later, I know my campaign. I know how much I'm going to spend. I choose the people that I think they would like. And even from those people, some of them would still decline just because it's very, you know, like a personal opinion.
Yeah.
But at least the approval percentage is much higher than when I started.
I totally agree with you. I have a single I'm probably going to be pitching soon, and I'll probably only pitch it to 4 or 5 people that I know are out of the thousands that are on there. Yeah,
we're I think we do anything between 5 and 15, depending on the genre, of course.
Yeah, that's great. I think the biggest flaw of the platform is that feedback conundrum, because if you don't prove that you're listening, that a curator is listening to the song, then there is people who could figure out a way to scam artists. At the same time, being forced to provide feedback, especially on a track especially when they provide, you know, feedback on the mix or something that is finished and you can't change. That's just, I understand it's a conundrum, and I don't think they've been able to solve it in any way.
Yeah. At the stage where the tracks are being sent, I guess that's a bit too late. Maybe for the future.
Yeah, maybe.
But what I like, I don't know when was the last time you used it. They have this new feature, which is basically you can specify what kind of feedback you want. Which is nice because now this makes our life easier. So I'll give you an example. You can choose prove to me that you've listened, but be, let's say, gentle or be just easy about it. So then I would try to make a comment on something that is clear in the track, because obviously you have to show you've listened to. But in this case, you don't have to go into, okay, the snare should be this, or the mix or the master and stuff like that, because clearly the person just wants your yes or no.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, but there are people who specify giving feedback on arrangement, on lyrics, on energy of the track. And there is even, I had this case, I don't do much SubmitHub. There is other people in the team. I'm focused more on the label. But I had this case, somebody wrote, please help me find the genre to describe this music, even if you say no.
Oh, okay.
So actually, it was quite a no, was not a fit for us. But I actually did spend a few minutes even looking around Spotify, and I even suggested a few editorials.
That's nice.
So yeah.
No, that's great.
Things have changed.
Yeah, okay. I didn't know that. I'll have to look into that, because that is really nice. Like I actually I got to a place where I requested feedback, but I wouldn't read it myself. So I made sure that they had to do it, but I didn't want to see it because it would just make me upset. So it's like, I get a decline, that's okay, I get it. And when I was using it as a label to find artists, I had a very, very specific type of artist in mind. And even, you know, this year I might be looking for this type of artist to fill this hole in my roster. and next year I might be looking for someone else. And so my feedback was always like, this is great, or it's a sound, but it's just not the very specific thing. Basically, it's not you, it's me, kind of. What I mean?
Which to be honest, it is a very frequent scenario.
Yeah.
Sometimes you do get great music and it's just not for you. It happens to us with the label. Like there are people we release with. I know I'm jumping topics a bit.
That's okay.
Sometimes one of the label artists would come to us, and I've had the case that, hey, listen, this track is just not for us, but maybe you can try this in this label. Just because if we cannot provide the value and push this, what's the point?
Yeah.
It's not good for the artist. It's not good for us. So yeah.
Okay, tell me about Stereofox, because like I mentioned, I kind of came to them through being the curation process and about people who had these great an audience of listeners of a certain genre. So now I see things evolving into a label and more. So can you kind of give me a little bit of the backstory?
Yeah. So we started Stereofox. I say it's a brand and it's like a mindset. 10 years ago, a few friends of mine and I, we were living in the Netherlands at the time, and it was more like a end of university project. We wanted to create our own brand, and also it's kind of this weird thing where you graduate university and you want to get an internship, but to get an internship you need previous experience, which you clearly don't have. So we challenged ourselves to make the Stereofox version 1, and one of my best friends, he's the CTO of Stereofox. Basically I challenged him and said, can you make something like SoundCloud where the music doesn't stop when you change the pages,
right?
But it also has articles, so it's like a mix between Pitchfork and SoundCloud. Because I was working at a radio station there, or working is a stretch.
Yeah.
And I was already like a blog reader, but I hate it where you change the page and the iframe just stops the music. So you're stuck on this one page. So that's how we built Stereofox V1, and that's when the blog started. And that was 10 years ago.
Wow.
Last month.
Wow, congrats.
And then, yeah, man, it's been a journey. And then people started coming and going. And, when you're super young, it's very fun to write about music because you get guest lists and free merch. And that was it for everybody, including us. But a few years later, we scattered around the world. I went to Germany. Some people stayed in the Netherlands, etc. And we saw that the people come and go, and then less and less people come. And we had this problem that we all had a day job because you have to pay the bills. But the project kept going, and we didn't want to stop it. So we kind of had this, the core team or the founders, we made this business plan where with every X amount of dollars we generate, we're going to hire part-time employees.
Okay.
And that's honestly the first SubmitHub money was used to pay somebody to start working 2 hours a week, because it was nice to have somebody dedicated from 9 to 2, whatever happens in our personal life. And that started rolling, and the curation part, the blog kept growing. We started opening our Spotify playlists in 2015, SoundCloud. And at some point, we were doing a lot of premieres, and Spotify was kind of a thing, but just about to peak.
Yeah.
And a few people started asking why you don't put this thing out as a label. And I wasn't very eager about it because I didn't know much and I had a lot of stuff going on. But just like with everything, we were like, okay, let's try this with a few friends who make music. The worst, we're going to epically fail them with a track, but we're going to be nice with them in some other way, buy them dinner or something. And was also basically a way to test whether we can start another revenue stream. And the goal is we already have the brand Stereofox, we already have the blog, which is basically has its own audience.
Yeah.
So I thought it's a nice synergy between the two things. And I started reading about what it's like to start a record label. Eventually, I found your podcast and your website as well. And we started the label in 2018.
Okay.
And we just had 3 releases for that year. And I remember my goal was to hit 5,000 streams, which I thought was going to be difficult.
Yeah.
On Spotify, because SoundCloud was still very peak,
right.
And you could get like 100K streams there, but there was zero monetization.
Yes. Yeah.
On SoundCloud. And we hit 50,000 streams on the first release, and that's
Wow.
when it clicked. I was like, okay, I need to get this a bit more seriously. And we kind of the same process. We grow a little bit, we get somebody else, we train them, and now 4 years later, I would say we are 60% label, 30% curator, and 10% podcast. I guess.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
That's
'cause
awesome.
yeah.
Well, and what I love about what you've done is that there's this great quote that says, without an audience, nothing is possible. With an audience, anything is possible. And I feel like what you've done, correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems true for your label in the sense that you started by building an audience of people who like the same genre or even the same lifestyle in a way, or the same type of genres, umbrella of genres, as opposed to creating a product and then trying to build an audience who likes that product. Instead now it seemed like you had this audience. How do I now just bring them value, bring them more of what we're already bringing to them? Is that true?
Yeah, absolutely. And another thing is, as we were kind of in the space for a while, you get to know other curators, other blogs, and playlisters.
Yeah.
So it's I don't want to say it's favor for a favor.
Yeah, I see.
But as we know each other, and I think, and I hope I'm right, maybe it's not, but I think we've proven that we're in this for the love of it, because honestly, having 2 jobs for 10 years, it's you either gotta love it or we're not in this for the money. So it's a bit easier to not only to use our audience, which we already built, but to talk to other people who might support us. And that's what I always say to other curators. I never expect you to support my track just because I send you.
Yeah.
I appreciate if you listen to it and there is no problem if you say it's not for you.
Yeah.
Because just somebody's time, like that minute of the day, it's so valuable. You cannot even ask for more.
Yeah.
So sometimes it does help having the brand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's so true. And so so you have the curation is still happening, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Very much so.
So how do you decide when an artist submits to you on SubmitHub or through your website? I think you do direct submissions through your website. Is that true, or no, just through SubmitHub?
Just SubmitHub.
Okay. All right.
We tried, but again, became very messy.
Yeah.
And we are a very small team.
Yeah.
So we
No,
just
I
have to be
understand.
careful with.
I understand. I mean, and going back to SubmitHub, I mean, when I talked to Jason, like he ran a popular blog as well back in the day, and I used to send my tracks to him all the time. And so SubmitHub came out of a solution to his own problem of overwhelm, like you're talking about.
Absolutely.
Anyway,
Yeah.
so when you get a submission, and we have other labels like you on the podcast. We've Gospel Hydration, for example, who has a big YouTube channel and is now doing a label. And I know Lo-Fi Girl is doing the same thing. How do you decide this is a curation project, or no, I want a deeper relationship with this artist and we want to represent them? Is it the same process that you're just getting these submissions and saying, hold on, I want to work with this artist? Or how do you differentiate those two?
Funny enough, I literally after this podcast, I have a call with an artist who submitted on SubmitHub for review.
Okay.
And which happened 4 days ago.
Okay.
And really, as soon as I heard the track, like this is what I'm still so happy. Like 10 years of doing this, I heard the track and I was so happy. And there's a very energetic electronic track. The guys from UK, and I was like, okay, I don't know anything about this guy, but that music is amazing.
Yeah.
And that is already step one.
Wow.
And as I was writing the feature about him, I obviously had to read his bio.
Yeah.
I checked his profile. He's upcoming. Mm-hmm. And it was just like it's just a feeling. There is no formula. As soon as I wrote the feature, I reached out to him. I was like, hey, my name is Ivo. I'm part of Stereofox. I wrote this feature, blah, blah. I was like, I don't know if you know, but we are a label. And he said, actually, I didn't. And I did the quick pitch. And we are having a call after this podcast to work on something together. He sent me already 2 demos. So SubmitHub, and not only SubmitHub, because we spend a lot of time looking on our own, but for fun. It's a great way to, it's like a feeding, like if you take this is the blog and the curation, this is the label, they are so interconnected and so helpful to each other. I actually cannot imagine they existing separately.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I completely understand that. That is really cool. So you are, so basically if somebody comes to you through SubmitHub, or you discover something, there's either this feeling of our audience will like this, or there's that feeling of complete shockwaves that come over your body. And it's like, this is different. This is personal for me. I totally get that. And that's cool that you still feel that after 10 years and probably a million songs.
Yeah, man. I hope I jumped the trap, where there was a time that I was actually very tired with this thing and definitely was on the edge of what to do. But it's this kind of music.
It's those moments.
Yeah, kind of ignition,
Yeah. And so, I mean, but you're getting submitted so many songs and you're saying yes to 5% of them for curation. You got to limit yourself on how much you can do for the label, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. The label part is much more difficult. Unfortunately, like not everything we are very limited in terms of release slots. Now the label team is the label team is bigger than the content team, although some people have the same work on the two teams. But we are a lot more selective on the label for sure. But the other thing is on the label we are more limited in terms of genre. So if I have to speak with examples, we tend to cover indie pop and maybe disco or this kind of more, let's say, breezy genres.
Yeah.
But on the label, we focus on just 3 genres for the time being. So sometimes there are cases that this artist is amazing and I think they have a lot of potential, but there is no way we can get them on the label just because we don't have the contacts to push that.
Yeah. Oh, I know.
That genre.
Yeah, absolutely. I remember I had this record submitted to me. This artist actually went on to get signed to a couple of great labels and do really great things. And I absolutely loved it. It was like indie, emo, indie rock. And it was just not my genre at all. And I loved the album. I kept it and I played it all the time. But I just responded and said, I'm the wrong person for this. I wish I was the right person, but it just wasn't for me.
Cannot be everything for everyone.
Yeah, exactly. What lessons have you learned? I mean, you have this incredible, you play 2 roles. A lot of us, you've seen behind the curtain on both sides of the industry, the curator and media and press and promotion, and then being a record label and even in being an artist and a creative. And so we talked a little bit about SubmitHub and how to use SubmitHub as a record label, but what other things have you learned that has Stereofox Curation taught Stereofox record label?
I think the way to approach other curators, the way to handle this, the respect, the amount of information you have to send. In the beginning, when we started the record label, for me, it was difficult to split my brain in 2, but after a while, basically I was like, okay, if I am a curator and this record label is sending me stuff, what would I want to hear, see, read?
Yeah.
And I think that was very valuable to be able to put yourself in the shoes of the other person. Also, when we were building the label website and the curation, so stereofox.com is the main website, and we have label.stereofox.com. So for every release, we have a digital EPK, which is like a landing page.
Yeah.
So I don't know, I don't want to speak for everybody out there, but I personally prefer to have a landing page with information instead of being sent PDF.
Okay.
So the way we designed our approach is we have these digital EPKs, which is just a URL, which contains the key information: artist photos, streamable link, artwork, downloadable, a quote from the artist on the release, short bio, and a short info about the release. We try and a short list of achievements, but everything we try to be as short as possible, just because long information looks impressive, but this is probably the 15th or 20th or 30th email these people will get, and they will not read your novel. they will
Yeah.
read 2 sentences
I agree.
and
Yeah.
at best.
So you're
that was
putting
a
a
lesson.
link to this EPK in the email.
In the email or in the DM.
What about sending? Oh, in the DM. Okay. What about?
We use DMs as well. Yeah.
Okay, cool. That's.
But
good
you got to be
know.
careful with
Yeah,
those.
yeah,
I know.
I know. No, that is really cool to know. I don't. So, what about putting all that information in an email, not a PDF, but to just list it all as an email so that they can open the email and get all that digested right away? What's the difference between that and a web page?
The email, at least how we do it, is even shorter version of this.
Okay.
Like the rule of thumb for me is 2 sentences. And funny enough, I just wrote okay, I'm very bad at Twitter. I don't think I'm funny enough to get these
too.
viral tweets.
Yeah, I get it.
I suck at Twitter actually. But a few days ago, I was feeling inspired to write one of those tweets, which got like 40 likes, which is the most I've ever gotten.
Yeah.
But that's where I explain, like you write your pitch, you shorten by half, you read again, and then whatever you can put in the 3 bullet points.
Yeah.
So your email pitch should look like 2 sentences, a few bullet points, and a link. That's it.
I completely agree. Yeah, I completely
Nothing
agree.
more than that.
Yeah. You're absolutely right. And it's all about respecting those people, right? You know, and respecting their time. And it kind of leads me to this other thought too about providing value. We talked about this. We talk about this on the show all the time about our releases and our record labels providing values to music fans. But also there's something interesting about, does your new release provide value to the curator in the sense that, is my new song going to make Stereofox look good? Like, is it going to improve your playlist? Is it you know what I mean? And there's a lot of playlists out there. There's a lot of like user-generated playlists that are very popular. And I can think of one that is like limited to like 20 tracks, updated every week, very, very custom. And, you know, that person, your song has to make their playlist sound cool. And that's something we don't think about. We always just think about the blogs doing us a favor or the curators doing us a favor. But it's almost, you know, there's got to be a little bit, I mean, maybe you disagree, but there's got to be a little bit of this, like, we as labels have to provide value to these people to make their job easier.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. And I sometimes have a discussion, which is, first of all, ongoing for a while, and it's becoming more and more valid. And it's basically, why do artists need label nowadays?
Yeah.
Which is a super fair question. And one thing that comes back, I'm going to take a step back, and it's about, if I can give an advice and a lesson that I've learned for doing this, I rather spend 25 minutes to research and work on one contact than spend 2 minutes per contact and send to 20 people.
Yeah.
Because once you get that contact and you nurture them, they are probably going to stick around. Now with artists, if you're an individual artist and you have at best 1 release a month, which is very optimistic, let's say.
Yeah.
First of all, you're busy making music. And second of all, you send them, okay, let's do once every 3 months. And you have to be careful what music you send, and you have limited chances. With a record label, when you do this, let's say 2 times a week, you can allow yourself a longer time frame. So we cultivated our database, which now has, let's say, 400 contacts over 5 years period of time.
Yeah.
But every single contact is actually researched. And honestly, if I open my Excel sheet and you tell me a row, I can tell you who this person is, what's their name, what kind of music they do, they cover, and if this release would fit them and bring value to their curation or not. Amazing. So I think this is a good value of a record label, just because they do it more frequently. So you don't have to rush to send to 1,000 people. If with every single record release, you find 3 new contacts in a year, you're already way ahead of the curve.
I 1,000% agree. And I got to this point where, you know, I remember a lot of people ask me when I'm prepping a release, am I, you know, sending a big blast, or what kind of campaigns am I doing? I get to a point, you know, I have a fan base I can rely on, but when it comes to the journalists and the writers and the curators, I've kind of boiled it down to like 5 to 10 people that I'm friends with. They're friends with me. So I can just say, hey, how's it going? And it's not a blast. It's like, here's our next release. They support everything I do, or they don't, and they're still my friend, you know. And it's a nice position to get in. I completely agree. You know, I would even say spend 2 years getting to know a contact and researching a contact. One is better than, you know, if I remember back in the day, you remember there would be like email lists, like spreadsheets that would float around, and they'd have everyone, like there'd be 20 writers at Pitchfork and 20 writers at Rolling Stone. Half the emails were fake. And like, what are you supposed to like blast 1 million people? And oh, what a nightmare.
If somebody responds to that, I don't know.
Good luck.
It's insane. This stuff didn't work before. Now it's even less.
Yeah.
Also, the curators are scattered across platforms. Some are on TikTok, some are on Instagram, some on Spotify.
Well,
very few have blogs nowadays. Like I guess the number of blogs is declining, which is a bit saddening to me. But it is what it is.
Let me ask you about these people that you're submitting to, because we're using the term curator a lot, and in my mind, I often think about Spotify playlists because for me, especially in my genre, that's where I can see an instant return on investment. Because if it gets put on a playlist with 10,000 or more followers, I can see those streams, and this playlist is getting me 500 a day. I know what that how much money I'm making. So like
the math is clear.
The math is clear. So
straight up.
When I'm talking about curating, I'm talking about Spotify. But when we talk about curators and submitting, who are you submitting to? Who's this list of 400 people? Like we said, blogs are kind of disappearing. Traditional media is hard to get into. Are you doing anything that we might find interesting, like influencers or YouTubers?
Yeah. So okay. We are trying to do everything in terms of I'm just not a fan, like of course playlisters is the top one thing, and most of the artists are like, okay, how many playlist ads we got? But honestly, we do try to submit to everyone, including radio stations. Like that's the thing, we would sit down and be like, hey, maybe there is honestly at the end of the day 40 blogs that are worth in the world right now. Maybe we're gonna fight for this one contact for 3 months, but once we get them, it's there, it's locked in. I know it's sending to a blog and being on a blog doesn't necessarily mean you're gonna get a lot of streams, doesn't necessarily mean you're gonna get into editorial. But at the same time, I would like to believe that it's a whole picture. And it's nice to have something written. So honestly, we have radio stations, we have journalists, we have bigger media, which is definitely harder to get. Of course, like it happens once in a blue moon. Last year we got in Clash magazine, which was a huge deal for us because it's really up there.
That's awesome.
And we have let's say smaller blogs, but it also depends on the artist. So we have artists who are clearly just in for the no, they're not in for the stream. Sorry, they care about the playlist and it's okay. They don't want to build a story around them. And with those kind of artists and genres, maybe we don't do so much blogs, but they are artists who explicitly say, hey, I appreciate the streams, but if I see someone writing something nice about my music, that means a lot to me and it gives me fuel. And if that fuel means that this artist is going to go and write another record after that, by all means, you should do that. So it's also controlled by the artist. We have what I believe we do with the label is customer success, as in, because my background is actually in tech startup and more like traditional like SaaS, where customer support is very important. And for me, I always talk to the team and I'm like, listen, however we do the communication, there has to be the artist, if they ask something, they need to get a reply in 24/7. We need to know them. We need to know what they want. And if a blog is their thing, we should get it. We should be able to offer this as a label. At the end of the day, it's not us that we dictate the stuff. It's more we provide the value at the end of the day because the music is theirs.
That is incredible. And so are you asking them almost before you start the campaign, like what did they consider a win? What did they want?
in some cases we ask, in some cases it's okay, it's gonna sound very bad, but it's kind of obvious.
Yeah.
Also depends on the genre. You can see if somebody is more into storytelling, and if there is a story, we try to do blogging.
Yeah.
Sometimes, man, a good song is just a good song.
Yeah.
And there is not much behind it, and it's also difficult to put on the blog.
Yeah.
So
that's true. No, that is really cool, because like you're absolutely right. I mean, there's some people who just want vinyl and some of their releases. Some people who just want accountability. They just want somebody to help them get their records out there. There's other people that it's like, this is all about playlists. All I care about is my monthly listeners. Anything that pushes that number is important to me.
It's good. And of course, it is important, and getting on editorial playlist is super important. And we always strive for that. But it's also, as you know, it's not up to us whether or not somebody's going to be on editorial. At the end of the day, it is. But speaking of editorial, there is this notion, which is not confirmed, but I think it's kind of out there, that the more media coverage you get, the higher chance you have to be on editorial. We are playing that game. I would like to believe that's the case. Yeah. So if we try to get an artist a block with the first single, when we pitch the second single to Spotify, we try to mention that. Yeah. Maybe it doesn't make a difference, but you gotta keep trying, right?
What about I've heard that too, and I don't know how I feel about it. I agree with you. I like to believe it's true. But what about user-generated playlists? I mean, I remember I had a song about 2 years ago that was put on a very popular user-generated playlist, maybe 100,000 followers, I can't remember. And instantly that song was picked up by editorial. And I was like, I bet you they're watching those playlists, aren't they? Like, so I kind of wonder if there are some user-generated playlists that if you get on a bunch of them, or even one of them, that may help. Have you experienced that?
Yeah, 100%. I cannot say whether that's true or not. If that specific playlist, it could be. But another reason, if it's not a specific playlist, is I imagine the algorithm, which is in the background, is monitoring those, let's say, levels of streams, and maybe it's highlighting to some editors. And I think if the playlist is good and it generates a lot of streams, and the song is actually a good fit for that playlist, because I'll get to that in a second, that sends positive signals to the algorithm and maybe to the backend or whatever editors are using, and say, hey, that track gets a lot of streams and a lot of people add it to their favorites. Maybe you should pay attention to it. Yeah. So 100%. But just to take a step back, because I had this discussion, artists, please don't try to get on playlists where your music is not a fit. Yeah. Because sometimes a lot of streams for like in front of the wrong audience is really going to mess up your algorithm. I actually have seen this. I've seen artists on a Bob Marley playlist, and the guy doesn't have anything to do with reggae. Right. And then, okay, you can generate some streams, but man, it's probably skipped after a while, because if I want to listen to my jammin' and then this hip hop starts, I'm going to probably skip it, and that's a bad signal. Yeah. So yes, you can take your 40,000 streams and the $200 with them, but down the line, that's very bad for the algorithm. Yeah. And if you care as an artist for your future, don't do it.
That's so smart. I've heard that said too about YouTubers. You know, if you start a YouTube channel and you get all your friends and family to watch it just to boost up your numbers, it's going to mess everything up. Because
don't do it.
They're not fans of you.
No, not at all. Not at all. I stopped. We all have done it. I've done it for sure for some stuff. That's right. Like WhatsApp blast to all my friends. Okay, check this track, please add to your favorites. I think that I did this for the first release of Stereofox for sure. Yeah. I basically spent my day personally asking friends to listen to that.
Yeah, I've done that too. Yeah.
So been there, done that, but it's not a good strategy down the line. And also things are changing.
There was, I haven't got a chance to ask Jason about this, but I have noticed in the past maybe 2 years that SubmitHub was offering the opportunity to submit to Instagram influencers or TikTok. And I mean, I don't know how I feel about that. I'm probably the wrong person to ask just based on my demo, but I'm wondering how that's going. Has that something you've ever experimented with?
We tried once or twice, so the system kind of makes sense. It works differently. So you send your track to the influencer, and if they say no, you actually get your money back.
Oh, okay.
If they say yes, obviously you pay them.
Yeah.
It's a very different rate because as a blog and playlist curator, we get like $1, like $3 is the submission.
Yeah.
I think with them is a bit more just because they're expected to make a special video or
well,
dance
it's just one.
or whatever.
That's right. You could put 20. You could put 100 songs on one playlist. Yeah. Okay, I get that.
But we don't do that just because first the music we do, I think if it's gonna go viral on TikTok, it's gonna go viral on TikTok, not because somebody made a video for it.
Yeah.
And it's important to note, because I listened to a podcast with him recently and he explained it because I haven't used it for a while. Mm-hmm. They're targeting actually micro influencers. Like you're not gonna get somebody that has like 1 million followers or 5 million followers.
Okay.
But if your goal is to generate 300, let's say your artist comes and they're about to pitch to a venue or something and say, hey, if my track has 500 videos on TikTok, regardless of how many views they have, I guess that's a good way to spend a few hundreds.
Yeah,
but
interesting.
It's not for us.
I've never experimented with it before. I'm just kind of intrigued. The only thing I'm intrigued by, and one of the things I don't like about social media is I don't feel like anyone's really committing to anything on social media. You're on it. You're standing in line at the bank, or you're on the toilet, and you're just flipping and flipping and flipping. I don't think you're really going to discover something amazing, but I could be wrong. But one of the reasons I do think it's interesting is that there are some influencers who have this overall aesthetic to their profile and to who they are. And if your song matches that just perfectly, that, I don't know, that could work. You know, that you could say that 300,000 followers of this travel blog or this travel influencer who backpacks through North America or Asia, that they're going to like this one type of track. And all of their followers will as well. So that I do kind of see that being a way to find a targeted audience of a certain aesthetic, maybe. I don't know. Yes,
100%. I think it should be tried. We don't do it just because we don't have enough people and nobody on the team is into, like, it's not a strength.
Yeah.
I tried, man. I tried being on TikTok. I tried coming up with a video. Doesn't work. So you got to pick your battles.
Yeah,
for sure it works for some people. I'm almost never in front of a camera as well. So I think I like this and podcasting is different. But I've been debating, should I be on TikTok and even like I admire people who go on TikTok and be like, so if there's one track you need to listen to today, that's blah, blah, blah. And I wanted to try this, but I sit in front of the phone and I feel stupid.
I completely agree. Yeah, we're the wrong people for this. So tell me a little bit about, I want to ask you about the publishing arm, which I've noticed is new. But I also, and in that same question, I want to ask you about multiple revenue streams, something you kind of alluded to earlier. And just this idea, I was coaching a label yesterday and they were asking me, like, where can they expect the revenue to come from? And I think for anybody with a healthy catalog, streaming and Bandcamp may make up 50 or 60, maybe 75% of your sales, maybe less, but there still is a portion of mystery money that needs to come in from somewhere else. Can you tell me a little bit how you have dealt with that and some of the revenue streams that you rely on?
Yeah, absolutely. So publishing came late to the game for us. It's been officially out since a few months, but of course we start preparing last year. Funny enough, the decision to move into sync and publishing basically was taken just a little bit before you start your summer series on sync.
Oh, nice.
Which was perfect timing, and I really love them. Scott, I've heard every episode at least 3 times.
Oh,
definitely.
Wow. That's awesome.
It was super, super insightful. And it's, we learn on the go. I wish actually going back 4 or 5 years ago, I was a bit braver because I thought you need to be, basically, you need to have a legal background, you need to do this and that to start a record label. So I was very slow in the intro.
Yeah.
But nowadays I'm more like, okay, there's this thing, sure you can learn it, you start doing it. And 3 years ago, I didn't know much about publishing and all the monies or royalties which you generated. So if our original contracts on the label were just covering the master side. And then, as I told you, we're doing a lot of radio push besides playlisting. And we've had our music on BBC Radio 1, KCRW, like pretty like good stations, which I love.
Yeah.
And then I realized, wait a second, we are doing this work and there is royalties generated because of public performances, etc. But we're not collecting them.
Yeah.
So I start digging around. And then this one thing happened a year and a half ago. We got approached for a sync deal. And they asked me who controls the publishing rights. And I was like, oh, yeah, it's not us.
Yeah.
So, of course, we dealt with this. But then, yeah, this basically was the logical next step. First, to provide more value to the artist, because in this case, we're also incentivized to push and invest more in radio plugging. Mm-hmm. And second of all, as I said, we do have a healthy amount of contacts. And I would like to believe the brand is somehow known. So my bet is we're going to use this to get sync opportunities, which is good for the artists and is good for us. We also start doing physical when it comes to additional revenue stream.
Yeah.
Definitely more. Yeah. Sorry, go on.
No, tell me more about physical. I'm very curious about your vinyl.
It's honestly mostly because some artists. So first of all, I am a collector.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
We all love physical. It's expensive to do. But there are a few artists who, going back to what they want, they shared, I would love to have my music on a physical product. And it's not something that's gonna break the bank.
Yeah.
But it's surprisingly better than I expected. So my initial goal was, if we end up at 0, but we have a record and people have this record and the artists have 20 copies and we, let's say, do 20 as a present and we sell 60, that is already a win.
Yeah.
So I don't count it yet as a standalone physical additional revenue, but at least it's not at a loss. And I think it brings a lot to the picture.
I completely agree. I just want to highlight that for people listening, that for some people, vinyl is a revenue stream because it is a high ticket item. And I think when you're over that 300 quantity number and you're selling those, it is a high ticket, it is a good revenue stream. But 100 or 200 and below, it is a promotional tool.
It is a promotional tool, yeah.
It's a loss leader. It feels good for everyone. It makes you look good. It's tons of Instagram content, flashes it everywhere.
It's a win.
It's sexy, but yeah.
It is a win.
Yeah.
At the end of the day,
it's worth the $2,000 because you'll hopefully get that back at the end eventually. But but you'll only break even. But it's still fun to have, and gifts is a good example.
Yeah, have you used crates for your pressings, or
no?
How are you?
No, I haven't. No,
okay.
I use like traditional plants. But I have heard of them.
Mm-hmm. That is let's say stress-free way to start, or to dip your toes.
Because that's pre-sales, right? You don't start manufacturing until you've pre-sold.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
So if you're lucky, and if you again don't want to make a buck, you can have your sale price relatively low, and if you can manage to get 100 pledges, you get yourself a vinyl.
And if you don't get 100 pledges, what do? Do you refund it, cancel it?
Automatically refunded back to the people.
Okay.
Like no upfront cost or risk on your end.
Interesting.
We have been pretty happy with these guys.
That's cool.
You can also pay upfront. I guess my main stress source when it comes to pressing, especially, was shipping, which is still tough for me.
Yeah.
So it's quite nice that they handle your shipping.
Oh.
So for a small mid label, and if you don't have time to, although I gotta admit, when I ship the records, I try to write a personal note, and thank you, and it's so rewarding. But it's nice to be able to log in a platform, put the address of whoever ordered, and then ship it for you.
Oh, that is cool.
So again, early projects, if you don't want to risk too much, that's a way to go. But as you said, cool content for Instagram. Yeah. It's rewarding emotionally, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Why
Yeah.
10-inch? I noticed you do a lot of 10-inch vinyl.
Yeah, because the projects we had just didn't fit, like they were too small for 12.
Oh, okay.
So but the last 4 are 12 inches, and actually we have 2 doubles.
Oh wow! Yes, I did. I
yeah.
saw that one release. Is it the Belgium?
Bulgarian Beatwave is one of them.
Beatwave. Yes, I was
And
listening
the
to
other
that
one
this
is-
morning. It's beautiful, beautiful.
Oh, thank you, man.
Yeah.
And the other
love
one
it.
is with the Elijah Nang Gaijin 3000. That is also double
Yeah,
splatter color. Very beautiful.
yeah.
Like, if one day we are not in business and I'm old, I'm just gonna look at them. It's gonna be a great memory.
Because completely agree.
Man, the 10,000 streams from yesterday is gonna be a story in 2 years, and you wouldn't remember. But
No,
that thing.
Exactly, 100%. I completely agree with that. And I even have, I mean, I view music as an artifact. I mean, I have tapes from my childhood. I have CDs from when I was a teenager. I have records that I've made. I have tapes that labels on our podcast have made and have sent me as gifts. They're all, they're artifacts. They're these intimate connections. And I don't have that with even my Bandcamp collection. I don't have that with iTunes or Spotify. I agree with you.
Yeah, I think I've been thinking a lot about it, and also with the NFT stuff. It's hard to replace this, man.
Yeah.
It's just. But of course, that is maybe you and me. I don't know. Maybe not everybody feels this way. But that's the thing. Maybe you're gonna agree with me. When you're a label, you gotta try to cater to a few people. Like maybe you have 100 dedicated fans and you do vinyl campaign for them.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then the rest can stream as much as they want. Which is great. Like you.
I was talking about this with a label recently about there are people who will buy the digital album off of Bandcamp. And they'll give $5 or $10 for the MP3s. And it's so foreign to me because I have Apple Music and I have Spotify. So if I want to listen digitally on my phone or on a Bluetooth, I have Spotify, Apple Music for that. And then if I really, really love an album, I want to own it on tape or vinyl. And the MP3 is kind of, to me, is like from the early 2000s. But yet, on every release, 30% of people will buy the MP3, and God bless them, because like that's the way they like to do music. And I don't ever want to take that away from anyone. However you want, and some people just want to listen to my songs on a Spotify playlist and not even know my name. That's okay. That's you.
It happens, yeah. I guess. I mean, I don't want to generalize, but at least that's how I feel. Where we are right now as a label, especially, we cannot afford to ignore potential fans just because maybe, like, let's say MP3 is not for me, but that doesn't mean it's not for somebody.
Yeah.
And I cannot be like, well, whatever, guys, I don't care.
Yeah.
You gotta cater as much as you can, of course, because the day is 24 hours and there is a limited amount of things you can do.
Speaking of which, my last question for you is: what's the future? Like, what's next for you guys, or what are you working on now? And I'm kind of curious about how you divide your time now that you have this publishing and you have curation still happening and your labels. So, what does that look like for you this year?
This year is going to be interesting one because a few of us who are so the team we are slowly building, and some of the core members who I mentioned at the beginning are now quitting their full-time jobs to dedicate all their time on Stereofox.
Wow, congrats.
So we are excited to be able to spend, of course it's a risk thing we're going to be doing, but it's going to be a year we give it 100%.
Yeah.
And I think this year is the year we have to basically solidify the team, because without the team, we are nothing. And how we split the time is the curation team is focusing on. We are trying to get more long format editorial articles.
Okay.
So we did a few articles on how to write a good Spotify pitch, where we actually put our own pitches. Like, so it's very public and transparent. People can go and read them.
Yeah. That's cool.
And that kind of content, even though blogs are dead in quotation marks for those who listen to, we actually get tons of readers. So clearly people are looking for that. And so that's going to be a priority. Basically share content which is useful for artists and for like music nerds, let's say.
Yeah.
And the publishing team is very small right now. It's one person who is handling administration and proactive approach to sync music supervisors. So that is a big thing for us. I think there is a lot to learn, and I hope my goal for this year to turn back and have at least one big sync deal.
Oh, that's great. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a modest goal. It's a good goal to have. Yeah.
Yeah. And we keep trying. Yeah, it's every day. It's waking up and being excited to get on the laptop.
I know. Yeah,
that is a win already.
I had that exact same thought just last week. I came into my desk. I actually needed to, before I was working on the podcast, I needed to record some drum machines for another project I was working on. And I came into my office. I put the coffee down. My eyes were barely open. It was like 8 o'clock in the morning. And it's thought, how incredible is this that I get to come in here and record a drum machine first thing in the morning? You know what I mean? It's just kind of fun.
It is a blessing.
Thank you so much for doing this. Congrats on everything with Stereofox. You're going to get so many submissions now after this episode. Everyone's going to be like, oh, what a nice guy. I'm going to send him my tracks.
Thank you for inviting me, man. It's honestly a huge honor. When I reached out to introduce what we do, it's so humbling and just made my day when you answered. So I'm very your podcast means a lot and has helped me and the whole team a lot. So also I just want to thank you for everything you do.
Oh, that's great.
Super cool being here.
Oh, that's awesome. I was happy to respond because I still had a bone to pick with you that you rejected those 2 songs.
We can now we have our email communication. So we'll see.
Yeah, that's right. Well, thanks so much. This has been awesome.
Thank you.